Okay.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our first and hopefully only virtual reunion. We're excited to see familiar faces celebrating with us today. Grab your Kenyon koozie and a beverage of your choice. Sit back and imagine sunny skies and birds chirping. Now sit back and relax as some familiar faces and familiar places share their fondest Kenyon memories.
Good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from Cromwell Cottage here on the Kenyon campus in Gambier. This time in the afternoon, we would all be gathering together in the hospitality, beer tent, and socializing and reconnecting and joining in the type of community and fellowship that comes with reunion. We can't do that this year, but instead we have some great comments from alumni and friends about the things that they like most about Kenyon.
We are family. Okay. Yeah. Come on, everybody.
John Nipper, Kenyon 62.
P.F. Kluge. I came here as a student in 1960 and returned as a faculty member in 1987. It's a good place to be, and it's a good place to leave and to return.
My name's Richard Tutt. I came here in 1964, left in 1965, and came back in 2002.
My name is Peter Rutkoff, faculty member, starting 1971 until July this year.
Dan Epstein, class of 70. My wife and I moved here 5 years ago, and we love being back in Gambier. She was born here and raised here.
Hi, my name's Mike Ulrey, and I graduated in 67. This is my dog, Yuri. He's our mascot. And I'm a local boy who went away for many years, and I came back 4 years ago after I retired, and I'm enjoying having coffee with all my old friends on the front porch.
My name's George Copsick. I moved here in 2010 to retire, and I graduated in 72 from Purdue University.
So probably my favorite place on campus is Old Side. Pierce is sort of the hub for the campus, I guess, and I really feel like it's sort of one of the few places on campus where I can see literally everybody. Like I've got friends in all sorts of like different activities in different departments who I just sometimes just don't see, but I can always sort of count on Tim and Pierce.
So the best part about being at Kenyon are the students and the parents. Past students, present students, you guys are wonderful. Thank you.
The thing I like best about Kenyon is Middle Path, and the great conversations that I've had with folks on that, and the amazing short commute that I get on Middle Path every day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Schott, proud member of the class of 1980, and currently the managing director of Kenyon's Land Trust, the Philander Chase Conservancy. I wanted to say to you all, in my 36 years of working at Kenyon, like all of you, we've never had a year like this at Kenyon. It's been an unusual year, but I think one that you'd be proud of the college in terms of how well they have navigated making sure that there is still a good experience for the students and that this is still a close-knit community. But I want to say, after my many years working in the alumni office and getting to know so many of you, how much we've missed having alumni back on campus. It just isn't really going to quite feel the same until we can welcome you all back, and we sure hope that is before too long. So in the meantime, keep Kenyon in your hearts, and please come see us as soon as you can. We miss you.
So Mia and I both really love South Quad in the spring. We've been lucky enough to live in Leonard for the past 2 years. We're juniors now. So it's just like a very special place, a very like comfortable and homey place for us. And it feels like in the spring, this area of campus specifically really comes alive. Like it's so nice, you're just sitting in your room and you hear music or you hear people and you open your window and see what's going on. Sometimes you bring your work with you, sometimes you don't, but it's nice to just like have this space that's like a social setting and a work setting, whatever you want it to be, that's just here when you need it, and you can just at any point step outside and be around all your people.
For sure, and we were both in a sorority together, and sophomore year we were lucky enough to live in Leonard Division together, and I just love that experience so much because you just walk into the hallway and you can just say, anybody home? And you just hear your friends, and you can talk to somebody about their day, and you run into everybody in the bathroom, and you get to chat and catch up, and it's just such a communal community space, and I'm just gonna miss it.
Yeah, there's something so special about just like living on campus, having everyone be on campus, but also the different spaces that are created in each dorm and like each section of campus. Like it's so lovely. This year we're not in division, but we're living with a bunch of our friends. We've been meeting people we wouldn't meet otherwise, and it's just nice because everyone works together to like make the dorms feel like homes. And we've been having a great time.
You have like access to 10 closets, 10 snack supplies, anybody there to help you with anything.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's the
Everything
best.
is just like piled into a communal wardrobe.
It's the best.
Let me show you one of my favorite hidden gems of Kenyon's campus. Boom. It's a tree that grew right around this light here. It's beautiful. Look at this. I don't know if someone planned this or whatever, however this came into existence. A lot of the time at night I'll just come over here and just appreciate it. So there you go.
Hey, American Studies. Recognize this? The site of so many of our wonderful experiences together at the end of every year. I want to just use this opportunity to say hello and send you my love and say how much I miss all of you. At least it's a beautiful day in this awful COVID year, but here's the deck where we had our end of the year picnics, and I thought it might bring back some good memories from everybody. Take good care, y'all.
We miss you, alumni. We'll see you next year.
Hello, Kenyon alumni. My name is Jess Book. I'm the head swimming coach here at Kenyon College. Talking to you today from the pool deck in the Lowry Center. I chose this as my space to say hello for two reasons. One, I spend a lot of time here. And two, I've always found it to be a good metaphor for what I love about Kenyon, for my own Kenyon experience. In some ways, Kenyon is a place of quietude and solitude and peacefulness and calmness, as the water is behind me now. But in other ways, Kenyon is a place of activity, engagement, and churning waters, and that's what the pool is like during practices. And so for me, when I think about this place, I think about that duality. I think about the quietness, the solitude, but I also think about the engagement, the activity, and the fact that we get to build teams that are very kind-hearted and hardworking at the same time. And so to those of you that were unable to make it to campus this year for obvious reasons, we miss you. We hope that you're well, and we look forward to seeing you back on this peaceful and yet frothy campus. Thank you all, and have a great day.
So now we've had a chance to share some of the memories that we have of Kenyon, and we want to open up the Zoom screen to you all on this afternoon. And so if there are any special places, any special memories, any special classes, professors, dorms, friends, things that you would like to share. This is a moment, in the words of Bruce Springsteen, for us to try to recapture just a little bit of some of those glory days. And so, yes, this is time to share, and I'm going to, first, to get things started, pass the virtual mic to Doug Gertner, class of '81.
Thank you, President Decatur, and I want to thank Sean Daly and everyone on your team for their good work in bringing us together today. I'm Doug Gertner, class of 1981. I want to shout out Belle and Heather, Susan and Daniel, anybody else from my class that I see on the call. I'm a longtime Denver resident, but actually visiting Los Angeles at the moment. And while I was given a lot of suggested prompts that brought back a massive cascade of recollections, my Kenyon memories today are 3 sensory memories. The first is the olfactory memory of when springtime finally comes to the hill, smelling so fresh and so sweet after a long winter. The second would be many, many auditory memories of my time at Kenyon, mostly associated with rock and roll, jazz, old time, country music, coming through either the DJ headphones at WKCO radio or echoing around the old Wertheimer Fieldhouse or Ross Hall. And finally, visual memories that all represent beauty, from the rolling hills viewed from the patio in back of Pierce Hall to the secret sunset spot that's probably not so secret to some people, and of course our renowned collegiate Gothic buildings. So many thanks for asking and allowing me to trip down memory path today, as I now pass the memory mic to Victoria.
All right, thank you, Doug. So hi, everyone. I'm Victoria Lederer, class of 2011. And yes, it's an honor this afternoon to be able to kind of reflect back on some great Kenyon memories with all of you here. Especially excited to see some 2011s out there in the audience. Hi. But when I think about Kenyon, you know, I think about the people and the word community. So I think that prompt really resonated with me. And it was really hard to just narrow down to one person that changed my life in my Kenyon experience. So I'll have to say 2. And actually one was in the video. And those were my coaches, Jim Steen and then Jess Book. You know, I think there are just so many memories on the pool deck. And just so many values that they both instilled to us as swimmers, but also as students. And when I think back, you know, Jess really instilled the values of passion and purpose. So I know I've taken these to where I am today. So I'm really grateful to him for that. And now I will pass the mic to Mike Young.
Thanks. That was awesome. I am really honored to be here to represent if you will, the memories of the class of 1976. Just to set the scene for you, we came onto campus at a time when the campus was still, if you will, a men's college and a women's college. That hadn't happened yet. And the Vietnam War was just beginning to wind down. Many of us still under the shadow of the possibility of being drafted. A lot of things have changed since then, but a lot of things haven't. And some of the things that have been endearing to me over the years and worth recollecting are the closeness of that Kenyon community. And the reason why I chose the school, I was very fortunate to have a great college prep upbringing and got myself into several really outstanding colleges, but I chose Kenyon because I felt very, very strongly that I was going to have an experience that would be more meaningful to me. And that's what it's turned out to be all these years. I reflect back on the fact that, you know, I looked at the school as a place where I could have small classes, but I didn't realize how small and how intimate that was going to be. Being invited over to Garrett Roloff's house to chop wood while he recited a bit of Shakespeare to us, really are things that I look back and think very fondly of. The fact that when I was having problems, admittedly, with some advanced calculus, having a chance to go to Dr. Lindstrom's house for dinner and have him spend time with me, going over the way to do things. And very, very fondly, recollections of Dr. Frank Yao. Dr. Yao, I took several different biology classes, my cell biology class there. But one of the things that he shared with me that I didn't understand until many years later was, he said to me, Michael, someday you'll find out that the farther you go out into the woods, and Kenyon being surrounded by woods, I thought that's what he meant then. But now I know that the farther I go out into the woods, the more Kenyonites I find. And I find them because they are still exploring all of those things that are the frontiers that we thought about on that hill. So I'm very grateful to be here today. And I'll share one more recollection of mine that was so important to me. And that was, I graduated on my birthday on May the 22nd. And I had no idea in a class of 400 plus students that I would come to stage and have the president of the school, President Jordan, say to me, congratulations and happy birthday. So that's the kind of school we have. And I'm proud to be a part of it. Thanks so much. And I'm going to pass this off now to Margie Callison.
Hi, everyone. I am, as Mike said, Margie Callison, and I am the class of 1986, and I'm happy to be here. I don't know that there are any other 86ers on the at this under the tent, but if they are, hello. I came to Kenyon at the time, one of very few students from California. My college class was smaller than my high school class. I had never visited. It was just not feasible for me to be able to do that. And when we drove up the hill that first time, I was so terrified. I didn't even know if it was an attractive campus. It didn't take long to realize that yes, it is. And it was a magical, transformation. And one of the things, two prompts are actually the same for me, and that is a professor, memorable professor, and someone who changed my life. And for me, lots of impacts, but Professor Reed Browning in my British history class. I have since third grade been in love with English history and was so excited to take this class at 8 a.m. my junior year on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And I hadn't yet really figured out that what worked for me in a large public high school in California wasn't really working well academically at Kenyon until I got into Reed's class. And somewhere near past the halfway mark of first semester, he actually put a note on my D+ test paper and said, I think you can do better than this. Come see me. Reed didn't know me. I clearly wasn't doing much in his class to have impressed him, but he took the time to reach out, and he was the thing that made me want to do better. That knowing that he cared was really an impetus for me to reevaluate how I was approaching my own education and to take ownership of that. And the fact that that same year we had one of the great Gambier snowstorms, and people couldn't get in from Mount Vernon. The fraternities were cooking the meals in the kitchen. That could not have been, I don't even want to think about it. But here comes Reed Browning with his, waist-high waiter boots, walk into campus because he could, and we still had class. But he actually wrote letters of recommendation for me for law school. That was a unique experience. I think that just to Kenyon is that you have that kind of interaction with faculty that they can turn your life around. And so that's me. So I know there are other people out there who want to speak about their memories and answer these prompts. So raise a hand.
Thank you, Margie. I think we have Gordon Weiss up next. He his name in the chat.
If I could, please, a shout out to Michael Young. I was drafted from the class of 71. 25 years later, I got out of the Army. So that was an interesting start. So I just thought I'd run down some thoughts about sights and sounds and smells. And from the spring of in Gambier, when it is so gorgeous. One sight that I recall is with my buddies Ken Abraham and Steve Castle and John Epling in the spring of, I believe, '68, shooting water balloons from the top of the Pierce Hall Tower. That was an interesting afternoon. We had the crossroads of Middle Path and the path to Ross Hall pretty well targeted. Not as exciting as climbing on the top of Hannah through the bi-cap windows to shoot water balloons on a Saturday night of people walking down Middle Path, but nonetheless exciting. The sounds, of course, were spring weekend, fall weekend, winter weekend, homecoming. Tremendous concerts in Ross Hall and Pierce Hall. Anybody who was with me back then can remember the multiple appearance of the James Cotton Blues Band in Pierce Hall. And then in our senior year of 71, in a very packed Pierce Hall, we had a solo opening act of a young lady with a big pile of red hair and a silver dress named Bonnie Raitt. And she opened that night for the follow-on show, which was the J. Giles Blues Band. Now, that was an excellent night of music in Pierce Hall, I would tell you that. So those are the sounds. And I guess in terms of the olfactory or smells of Gambier, rolling up your flimsy little bath towel and sticking it under the door of your dorm room doesn't work. That's all I have.
Gord, thanks for your service.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing, Gordon. Appreciate it. So if you'd like to share a memory from Kenyon, raise your hand either physically or electronically, and we will call on you. But I think I'll ask Rebecca Shute if you're willing to share your story about the green room in Bolton Theater. And if you don't want to, that's okay.
No, sure. I think I'm the only one of my class here that I've seen so far. I'm 06, which I won't confess to in polite society that it's my 15th year reunion. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Bolton Theater might have undergone some renovations in recent years, but some of my best memories as a theater nerd were forging the bonds that you do with a small band, motley crew, in that safe space where you challenge each other, you're doing your work for your other classes, you're learning more about each other, and you're ultimately preparing to go on and do something scary on a stage with the support of wonderful professors, including Tom Turgeon and Harleen Marley, who aren't with us, and the wonderful professor John Taswell. I have been so excited and invigorated by the series that's been broadcast recently, in which I participated, Theater of War Productions, that Kenyon has done through its visiting professorship. And it's a wonderful way, I think, to bring that spirit of Kenyon's love for social justice, commitment to our values, and deep ingrained spirit of respect for the arts and theater in particular to a wider audience. So I think that wonderful Theater of War Productions is bringing a little bit of the spirit of the green room to a wider public.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm going to call on Belle Potter Marks next, and then Carl, I'm coming to you.
Hi, I don't remember who was talking about it, but it had to do with English class. And I started out as an English major and then switched to anthropology, which is a very different size group. And one of my most memorable times was getting a note from Perry Lentz about my performance on my English test and he asked if I'd like to stop by and see him, which I did. And he said something has stuck with me all this time, which was that you don't have to prove to me that you read the book, just answer the question. And I thought that was really good because, yeah, just short and sweet. And, you know, my memories from the minute I got to Kenyon was just how friendly everybody was. And I also remember a snowstorm my first year, which would have been the fall, winter of 77, 78. And that was really memorable. And that year, Paul Newman, actually was the next year, he was in town and the theater was being built. And of course, you know, all that went along with that. And in terms of food, I really liked the granola and the salad bar. And I mean, the granola was absolutely extraordinary. And liked eating in Pierce Hall. And I do remember all the bands and the music and finally wrapping it up, the long walks and the beautiful country. And what a treat it was.
Thank you, Bill, for sharing. Appreciate it. Carl Rattan.
Hi, everybody. I'm class of 70, and I'm so glad to be able to speak to you and think about some memories. And shout out to it looks like there are about 5 of us from the class of 70. So it's good to be with you. Probably our era, we probably think that we were the most momentous class because we were a class of enormous change through the 60s. We, of course, began as an all men's college, and then we left with women on campus, but we were the last all male graduating class. When we graduated in 1970, I was kind of comparing that to 2020 because you know, people were wondering if there would be graduations in 2020. In 1970, May 4th, 1970, the 4 students were shot at Kent State and then at Jackson State. So there was just a lot of questions as to whether colleges would graduate or not. We did graduate, but it was a turbulent time. And I just want to share my two people that influenced me most were Don Rogan, who was the chaplain at the time, and he helped me navigate my understanding of how to respond to the Vietnam War, because of course that we were the class that had the lottery. So he helped me file my CO papers. Eternally grateful for him. It changed my life. And then Dean Edwards, who was always so supportive. So it's good to be with you, and I hope I can get back to Kenyon before too long. Greetings to everybody.
Thank you, Carl. We look forward to having you back at Kenyon too. Next, I'm going to go to Richard Clark.
Rich, you're muted.
Check off your bingo square there. All right, well, maybe we'll come back to Richard. I'm going to go to Dorothy Leonard next.
Okay, I have to say, just in general, there is no place that I have ever spent a significant time in my life that I have the kind of nostalgia I have about Kenyon. And just this feeling that it's a big part of me. And all of this listening to memories, I don't know if you saw my comment in the chat about the granola. I've spent a lifetime trying to find the kind of soft, dewy, wonderful granola I remember and have not found it yet. If anybody has found something, please let me know what the brand is. But my memory, probably the most, the one that comes to the forefront is an image of the Kenyon Christian Fellowship that I've been very involved in, sitting in a circle on the floor in the Church of the Holy Spirit. And we were still small enough to meet there my freshman and maybe my sophomore year. We eventually moved to the KC. But the floor of the Holy Spirit and the sound of worship led by a single guitar, and the smell of incense. And when I watched liberal arts, there is a scene where the main character and Allison, I think Allison Janney's character, or maybe the young college student that he's interested in, have a conversation sitting on the steps of the altar steps of the Church of the Holy Spirit. And I about fell out of my chair because that is my most salient memory.
Thank you, Dorothy. We're gonna have to track down that granola recipe. It seems to be quite popular. All right, Richard, I see you came unmuted. Share a memory with us.
Actually, one that came to mind is just when you heard from our last speaker. I used to practice on the organ at all hours in the Chapel of the Holy Spirit, and I watched liberal arts and was in a theater that was empty actually that day. I was about the only person that was in the theater here in Minneapolis. And one of my most vivid memories is practicing and having people walk through the campus, which is exactly what happens in that opening scene. And that's how I met so many people. The chapel held a great fondness for me because of singing in the choir with Frank Lendrum, and the practice, and also has been really wonderful because I've come back a couple times during reunion weekends to play for the morning Eucharist at the church. So that was amazing. I also noticed that Sam Baroni appeared to be on the chat earlier, and Sam and John Ryerson gave me my chance to write for the Kenyon Collegian when I was a freshman. And I remember going down the field to cover the very first game on what was the very first weekend of my being there. And I went into the press box then at that time and was seated next to a person who I didn't know, but I would find out about halfway through the conversation that it was Bill Caples. And so when I graduated, he was able to call me by name because he had known me for those times. But so many unique experiences with so many people. I heard mentioned earlier the names of Reed Browning and Perry Lentz and Don Rogan and Reed Browning, all people I remember with great fondness. So it was amazing. And earlier, I think it was Margie mentioned that there were very few people from California in those days, and I was one of those few. But many fond memories.
Thank you, Richard. I'm going to go to Steve Thompson next.
Shout out to the others from 74, Rich and Jamie. I would like to just mention my interaction with a faculty member that probably had the most to do with my success, even though I didn't know it at the time. Franklin Miller taught freshman physics, and that was the only class I ever had with Franklin. I was a physics major, and I had multiple classes with other faculty members. So when I went off to grad school, I didn't ask Franklin for a letter of reference. But the next thing I knew on that topic, I was when I defended my dissertation. One of the people on my dissertation committee said, "Hey, come on into my office. I want to show you something." And he pulled out a letter of reference that Franklin had written for me that was very detailed, very, obviously he had followed me very closely. And, it was not something that I had asked for or ever knew about. I think this is the kind of thing that Kenyon faculty do. I had other interactions with other faculty members, not in my major, and it's just a wonderful place. You can learn a lot of things from books, but the ability to interact with people in your technical area, I think is a really wonderful thing that exists here and not in a lot of other places. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Bob, you got your hand up.
Hi, Bob Weiss from the class of '80, and I have a couple of people who were instrumental. Alan Batchelder, who I was an econ major, and we had African chop at his house 2 weeks into Kenyon, and I don't know what happened to him, but he was a great professor. But probably the most influential in my life professor wasn't actually a professor, but he was Herr Hecht, who was the provost. And probably the best class I took was senior year, second semester, German Romantic literature from him, which was fantastic. And it was great. Great memories. Somebody mentioned the snowstorm in the late 70s. A little addendum to that, the kitchens were closed for like 3 days. So students had to people couldn't come in. So the students manned the kitchen and, or worked the kitchen to feed the students because that was the only way to get food there. The movie Animal House premiered there because the director's son was at Kenyon. So that was kind of a crazy thing. And I think my last crazy memory was failing comps the first time. And I did pass the second time. So thank you for letting me be a graduate. And I was going to say a couple other things. Oh, yes. Lisa Schott was not only a classmate, but we were fellow archons together. And I come back, I missed my 25th, but I've been back from the 5th until I come back every 5 years. I live outside of San Francisco, but I do miss the romanticism that is Kenyon. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. I'm going to go to Rick Yord next and then Sam Baroni.
Okay. See if I can pop up here. So basically, like many Kenyon students, I came to campus without any real clear idea what I was going to do with my life. So I became a psychology major, and it was very rigorous, and I enjoyed that. But somewhere in my junior year, I had spent my free time working in the theater, and with Daniel Opar. And in my junior year, Dan sat me down and he said, "So what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Clearly you don't want to go into psychology." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I think you need to go to graduate school in theater." And I said, "Okay, that will be interesting." He said, "But there's a small problem. There's a few things that you would need to know before you went to graduate school, and you haven't had those classes yet." So basically what Dan did was he said, "We need to set up a class for you, the full year class in the theater department that will introduce you to everything you need to know. But the problem is we need one more student." And so that student was Lou Sage. And then we needed a place to meet. So on Wednesday nights, we had the senior theater design seminar. I was living off campus in a very tiny little house. And so there was just room for the three of us in the front room, sitting around. And Dan or Lou would bring the beer and I would provide the place to meet. And it was quite an amazing experience. I went off to graduate school in theater and there discovered I didn't want to be in theater. I actually wanted to be a cabinet maker. So 50 years later, I still do that. So that's kind of my experience.
Thank you, Rick. Sam?
Mm-hmm. You're up.
Thanks, Sean. Sam Baroni, class of 72, and I want to extend a special congratulations to all of this year's reunion classes. and really bummed for you that your reunion cannot be on campus, particularly on a beautiful day like today. But I want to let you know that our class has already been planning for the last 2 or 3 months for our 50th in May of 2022. And I want you to know, this is particularly for our classes of 70 and 71, so many of whom were our closest friends as we were going through Kenyon, that we are mindful of the bad luck that you have had with COVID. And we are going to make every effort we can to include you in many of our class of 72 50th anniversary or 50th reunion events. So please plan now to make next year's on-campus reunion one of the best ever, and know that you will be welcome at so many of our events, and that we look forward to seeing you all. And also just want to make a shout out for the Kenyon Together campaign that's going to be starting very soon. And make sure that we all, even though we probably have all already participated in the Kenyon Fund, just make that little extra effort to help Kenyon through these difficult times. So that's all I wanted to say. Just wanted to congratulate you and know that you're going to be welcome next year when you are able to return to campus.
Thank you, Sam. Always good to see you again. I'm going to go back to Gordon Weath. He has an additional comment he'd like to add.
Thanks. I would be remiss without recognizing the most influential person that I met at Kenyon, and that would be Diana Morgan, class of 1973, first class of women. And why is she influential? Very simple. In October of this year, we will celebrate our 49th wedding anniversary. So that's, I wanted to give a big shout out to her for the great influence she has had on me for 49 plus years. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon. We love a Kenyon love story. All right, I'm going to go to Paul Wolf and then Jesse Gorovitz. Go ahead, Paul. Oh, we might have lost Paul. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and call on Jesse next. Jesse Gorovitz.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, everyone. I think I'm the only class of 2020 representative on the call today. Thank you for inviting me and for asking me to speak. I've only been away from the Hill for a short time, but it's also been a very long time because of COVID. And I think we all sort of feel like this past year has been a very long one. I wanted to share a memory that's kind of a collection of memories. I started out at Kenyon as an international studies major, and then I changed my major 3 times and became a political science major by the end. And political science seminars are usually, like the whole major is pretty male dominated, even in current Kenyon classes. But I was fortunate enough my last semester at Kenyon to be in a senior political science seminar that was almost all women, which basically never happens. And it also had a female professor, Professor Jackie McAllister, who just had twins. So she's not on this call, but shout out to her for her new babies. And that class completely changed my life. I had at least 4 life-changing classes at Kenyon, as I'm sure many of you did. But this one in particular was so important because of what it taught me about not only female friendship, but also the importance of engaging with intellectual equals and how life-changing that can make an academic environment. And that had happened for me before at Kenyon, but it was a very different energy coming from a group of all women. And it really inspired me to pursue research in a way that I hadn't really considered before. At the time, I was also working on my honors thesis in political science. And so I was writing this 150-page paper for my thesis, plus a 24-page paper for this class, and I wasn't worried about either of them at all. And it made me realize that having a really strong support system of friends and people who push you intellectually to do your best are things that were really important to me. And it inspired me to become a professor. So that's sort of the path that I'm on now. It all goes back to my senior seminar in transitional justice in Kenyon political science. And the amazing women that I met in that class who I still talk to today about all the problems going on in the world, and also The Bachelor. So not everything has to be intellectual, but it can be fun too. So I miss Kenyon so much, and I'm so excited to go back next year when I get to officially graduate, because they announced we have a graduation date for the class of 2020. I'd like to thank all of you for welcoming the class of 2020 into the alumni universe, and we look forward to participating with you all in future events. And I'd like to pass it off to Mike Hill.
Thanks, Jesse. It's nice to have your class join the alumni group. You're certainly welcome. And Sam Barone, the class of 70, I know is looking very, very, very much forward to being in Gambier next year, without a doubt. Somehow passing your 50th, not being on campus is kind of like not being there when you graduate. And so I know there are lots and lots of people who are planning on being back. I wanted to share that I first heard of Kenyon as an eighth grader in junior high school. Most summers, my family made a trip from the DC area to visit relatives in Illinois. And driving back and forth through Ohio, at that point, was always on US 30. And I commented a couple of times, since I was always reading the maps in the back seat of the car, hey, this place Gambier in Kenyon College isn't that far off of Route 30. So in the summer of '64, my parents agreed to overnight in Mount Vernon and briefly visit Kenyon the next day. And back then, Ohio 229 followed what is now Lower Gambier Road and went through Gambier, crossing Middle Path. And as many of us know, from 70, it crossed Middle Path right where Philander's Well was located. So we had a great drive along the Kokosing. It was late, I guess, mid-August, and we went up the hill from there. And the scene was pastoral. The campus was empty. It was classically handsome. We wandered around a bit. We eventually found a sign for the admissions office, which was in Ransom Hall. The sole occupant was Tracy Scudder. We had to knock on the screen door, and he let us in. We chatted for a while, and then he offered a tour, and he grabbed a huge ring of keys because there was nobody else on campus. The place was completely shut down. He opened doors here, doors there. We went through one of the dorms. I don't think we looked in any rooms. We went through Mather. We went into Ross Hall with the bump in the floor, all those things. And we're there for probably a lot longer than what we expected, but we had a great time. And I think my mom particularly was very impressed at his caring attitude and his kindness for the day, and made a lasting impression on the whole family. So in the spring of '66, Kenyon became my college choice. So I think it certainly changed my life. And a lot of other choices. There are large universities and East Coast places, but Kenyon called, and 50 years later, or 52 years later, certainly glad. And shout out to my classmates who are on this, Tom Bailey, Carl Rattan, and Scott Powell. It's good to see your faces. Hopefully we'll see them again in Gambier next year. And maybe Walker Pete, we'll see you there since 71 is supposed to be there as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you too. So Sean, now it's your turn.
All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. We have a couple more folks with their hand up, and then we have a slideshow spanning from Jesse or from Mike to Jesse's time on the Hill. But let's get a couple more comments first. Taylor Johnson.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm a graduate 83. I wasn't supposed to go to Kenyon originally. I got denied at all the schools I applied to. And my parents dragged me down to Kenyon very much against my will. And it was Parents' Weekend in April, and I just fell in love with the campus, and it definitely was the right school for me, and as many have said, changed my life. I have many memorable professors, Roy Wortman and Shortman, and I had Herr Hecht as a German professor who told me one morning, Herr Janssen, either you get more sleep or drink more coffee, because I had trouble staying awake. But I think one of my closest relationships on campus was with Tom Greenslade Sr., who wasn't a professor, but he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about responsibility and showing up for life, and commitment to a partner. And I will always be thankful for that. And I'm also, more than anything, thankful that Kenyon is a teaching school, or it was, I hope it still is, with the professors really focused on teaching. And that inspired me to become a teacher. For 30 years, I was a high school teacher, largely because of my experience at Kenyon. And I'm very, very glad that I ended up there. You know, I hate to say it, but my mom was right.
Thank you, Taylor. Moms often are right. I'm going to go to Bob Weiss.
Okay, so I typed in the chat box, but this is kind of I haven't seen this shirt in 25 years. This was my Kenyon apparel. For those of you who know the book Calvin and Hobbes, and a lot of grandchildren who grew up with Calvin and Hobbes, this was Bill Waterston, who was in our class of 1980, and he took over for Jim Borgman as the collegiate cartoonist. And he was the cartoonist for almost all 4 years that he went to Kenyon. And my favorite cartoon of his was during an election where he had like a dozen presidential hopefuls. And then this was during the gas crisis, and like an Arab sheik holding a gas pump. And he said, and the caption was, which of these is going to which of these people are going to most influence you over the next 4 years? And it was kind of funny. And also our middle son went to Kenyon, met his wife there, and they're happily married. And I have Kenyon to thank for that as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Danielle.
Okay, thanks so much for organizing this. I'm here in Barcelona, so it's a little dark. It's late.
Wow, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here. And I just wanted to kind of share a couple memories related to what other people have talked about. Not thinking you weren't going to go to Kenyon, but there were a lot of directions I wanted to go in my life. And I thought I had it very clear, but I was having a lot of pressure from a high school teacher who said, you have to go to Kenyon. Other people in my life, and I grew up outside of Toledo, Ohio, and I thought there's no way I'm going to stay in Ohio. I got to get out of here. What did I know? And ended up taking a visit to Vassar, which was one of my top choices at the same time, and then directly afterward having a visit to Kenyon, and the difference was so night and day. that I think during that visit at Kenyon, it really cemented my idea that the hill view, yeah, that I just had to go there. I mean, I stayed a week, which was kind of a strange opportunity, but I ended up shadowing Anna Duke Reach at the Kenyon Review. She just stepped down as the director of programs, retired. And her daughter offered to put me up in her dorm room for an entire week. And it was such a different experience than other places that I visited, where they kind of passed me off between people and said, can you take her to the dining hall? Can you take her to class? Can you take care of this Prosby, you know? And at Kenyon, Anna's daughter, Kirsten, is just one of the best people in the world. She and all of her friends just treated me as if I was one of them, and didn't take me to dinner. They invited me, they took me to class, they made me mix CDs, like back when that was a thing. And just made me feel totally welcome. And I remember, maybe others remember this, the no cell phones on middle path rule and no headphones on middle path rule. I don't know if that's still in effect, but I don't know. I remember thinking in 2010, this is the best thing ever, that people value community so much that they're making a rule that we can't talk on our phones on middle path. And, you could step off of middle path and take a call in the grass, but on middle path, it was sacred. And then another thing I think that Kenyon really taught me is just the expansiveness that is the liberal arts education, and then how that affects your life later on. So I worked in the University of Arizona, which is pretty large, and now I'm working at the University of Barcelona, is also very large. And it just really, I'm having a ton of conversations lately about how amazing it is to be in a liberal arts environment, but especially at Kenyon, where you don't have to be a specialist in one thing, but it's good to take a variety of classes and to build a kind of generalist attitude toward life that has served me so well, because I was an English major. At the time, I thought, I love reading books, I'll study English, great. But ended up being really inspired to take classes with Marla Coleman in sociology, who is just one of the best mentors that I had in college, who really pushed and respected me in a way that I'd never had before. And Spanish classes, which led me on a whole path now 10 years later, where I'm living in Barcelona with my husband, and now speaking Catalan, and just like going on a whole life's journey that I never thought any of this would open up without being at a place like Kenyon, where there's so many opportunities to try new things. I was managing the Horn Gallery for 1 year, and that was something that has come back later, and now I'm working in cultural management. And just all like the base of everything was at Kenyon because of the expansiveness of the opportunities, I think, that were available. And so I just appreciate that so much, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to help other people experience it.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you to everyone else who shared a memory with us today. Heidi, why don't we go ahead and cue up that slideshow, but I'm gonna tell a quick Kenyon memory real quick, because I saw Elise Spenceley on here. And Elise once translated from English to Mandarin for me at a dinner in Beijing, which was a dinner of Kenyon parents. It's always a good memory. Heidi, whenever you're there, we go. Thank you.
See a river.
right. Well, thank you for joining us here today. We have 2 weeks of fun events lined up for you as part of our virtual reunion. Please join us for Kenyon Together. Kenyon Together will run from 9 a.m. on Wednesday, May 19th, this Wednesday, and conclude at 9 on May 20th. You don't have to wait until May 19th, though, to make your gift. You can show your support right away by visiting gift.kenyon.edu. We hope to have more than 1,000 alumni make a gift between now and 9 p.m. on May 20th, so I hope you'll join us. We also this week have a conversation with Leopoldo Lopez, class of 93 lined up. That'll be Tuesday, May 18th at 10 a.m. So mark your calendar for that one. A sustainability event on Tuesday, May 18th at 6 p.m. A continuation of our Hill to Hill series in American Transformation, Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. Utilizing the liberal arts to better understand and navigate healthcare, pandemics, and medicine, a very timely topic, on Wednesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. We have our alumni town hall and virtual class dinners on Thursday, May 27th at 7 p.m. Certainly you won't want to miss that one. And be sure to bring your bingo card. So I think we'll sign off maybe with raising our glasses as we celebrate a reunion unlike any other, and one that will certainly go down in Kenyon's history. We might be far away, but we're always Kenyon together. Cheers. So we'll go ahead and leave the call open for a while longer, and you can continue to share your thoughts and memories. Thank you for joining us.
Sean, just a shout out to you. Nice job, great moderating, and a super initiative here. I'm sure we're all touched by the effort that's been made. And President Decatur, thanks again for your kind comments.
Thank you, Michael.
You've done an awesome job keeping the campus together through this pandemic. And actually, you know, to be out here in California and to see Kenyon make the national news for some of the activities that we've done. You know, those of us who are in the life science side of things, watching the efforts that have been made with regard to the COVID pandemic on campus alone really makes us proud.
Oh, maybe I'll say something. I'm Richard Shorey from the class of 1960. Your slideshow just reminded me that I felt so strongly positive about singing down middle path. Because we had, in 1960, we was an all male campus, and we had fraternities, and it was just, I felt such a strong connection with the whole campus on singing down middle path. A few years later, maybe 20 years later, I don't know, I heard that they stopped doing that, and I thought that was, but anyway, it was something that I so thoroughly enjoyed, and just connected with everybody during that emotional time of singing down middle path. Anyway, so thank you for listening.
Thanks for sharing, Richard.
This is Abiel Hammond's class of 0102. I graduated right in the middle. I can relate to that as well. So I graduated much later than the person who just spoke, but I remember the song being sung in front of, it wasn't Leonard Hall, but it was in front of a central place, one of the older buildings on campus. And it's one of my greatest memories, the very beginning of my time at Kenyon. Really awesome, really stands out.
Thank you, Abiel.
I want to thank whoever it is that came up with the slogan for this reunion. And also, I needed to hear the Coco sing farewell, because I have been humming that song and laughing every time I look at my can cozy. And for those of you who didn't have the privilege of getting one of the Kenyon swag bags, it says remotely obedient to some strange spell since 2020. And I chuckle every time I look at that. Yes. Somebody's got a great sense of humor.
That'll be the biggest selling thing at the bookstore for the next year. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good evening.